Well, hey, everyone. This is Heidi St. John. Welcome to the Off the Bench podcast. Today, I have a very special guest on the show. My daughter, Savannah, is in the studio, and we are going to talk all things homeschooling. So if you are new to homeschooling, if you wonder what somebody who graduated from homeschool thinks about homeschooling and whether or not she would choose to homeschool her own kids, this is going to be a fascinating conversation. Stick around. I think you're going to be encouraged. All right, well, I'm glad you guys have joined me here at my little corner of the internet. I want to remind you before I get going today, we have a brand new study on peace that is happening right now at Mom Strong International. So yesterday I did my first teaching on that, and we talked about the shalom of God, the peace of God that really does pass understanding, and the fact that the world might be on its head right now, but God's people don't need to be. We can experience peace no matter what's happening around us, no matter what's happening in the culture, what's happening in our families, be it a financial struggle or a personal struggle. God offers peace, and his peace really does pass understanding. And so I hope you guys will join me for that. You can sign up. This is a great time to do it at momstronginternational.com. All right, you guys, I want to introduce you to one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. My daughter, Savannah, is here. Savannah is the oldest of our 7. And she's a mom of 4, for goodness sake. So welcome.
Yes, 4 kids.
You're often in the studio, but just not often in this
not
position.
Here. I was going to say that peace study sounds so good right now. I was reading it right before this started.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is very useful to me right in this moment with 4 kids.
Yeah, because it's not a lot of like worldly peace going on at your house right now.
No, it's just chaos.
Just lots and lots of noise.
But then one of them comes and gives you a hug, and it's like,
okay.
I can do this.
I know.
This
I
is
had
great.
the kids at my house. Well, these guys don't know. I had the kids at my house last night. They spent the night. And it's just so funny. You wake up in the morning and like all 3 of these little darling kids piling on my bed, Mamsie, can I have some cereal? Mamsie, can I? And it was just the cutest thing. And then Junie with her little voice. I hope you guys are getting it on tape.
I know. Yeah, we have to have a podcast for her or something.
She needs her own show.
I know.
It's so cute. I was like, Juniper, I'm asking her questions just for the sheer satisfaction of listening to her talk. It's so fun. It's fun. Well, I'm glad that you decided that you would take me up on my little invitation to have you here. I get so many questions, as you know, because you spend a lot of time in the studio with me just when you're here working at the Resource Center. And a lot of the questions that are coming in right now are about homeschooling.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
And at the Resource Center, we were just talking about we're getting ready to hit 2,000 students.
I know. It's grown so much.
Which is just bananas.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And you head up the Seedlings program. So I have so many questions I want to ask you. But first of all, tell everybody when you graduated from our homeschool and then kind of what happened after that, because pretty much in rapid succession, you met Ryan.
Yeah.
And your life changed.
Yes. So I graduated in 2010, and I was the first one to graduate, and it was a little bit scary, I guess, leaving and going to college and everything, because there definitely was a part of me that felt like, is this really going to work?
Right.
Like,
and me too.
I feel like I know things, but well, not everything, obviously, but like, will I be able to get into college and all that? And then,
how will you do once you get there?
Right. Yeah. All that stuff just in my mind. And honestly, I didn't have a whole lot of friends that had graduated. So I was kind of the older one of my friend group. So there was that too, just a lot of newness there. And yeah, went to Maloma University after trying to go to hair school. I didn't get into hair school.
Isn't that crazy? So you applied at the Aveda School of Beauty, this just very highfalutin.
Yeah.
But it's the Portland location will not take homeschoolers.
Yeah. Go figure.
Go figure. I mean, you can get to university, but not hair school. Boy, howdy. No way. That's not happening.
I'm not getting a GED to go to hair school. I did the work. I have a diploma.
Holla.
So anyway, yes, I did get into a university, though, Multnomah University, and they were happy to take me. And once I was in there, I was surprised at really how well it went. I don't know. They said they loved homeschoolers because homeschoolers tend to be self-sufficient. They get things done. Yeah. And I did witness that. Most of my peers would wait till the very last second to turn in their stuff. I'm like, what do you mean you waited till the last second? I've had this written for days.
Well, I think there's kind of an enthusiasm, because you've been at home and the sort of newness to try something different,
It was
right?
so
This
fun.
classroom
Yeah.
experience, and now you're 18 years old. Whereas a lot of the kids coming out of the regular school system, they've been going to classes their whole lives and
Right.
involved in classroom settings their whole, and so it didn't matter, but you were really excited about it.
Yeah, I met my husband there, as you know.
I do.
He's great. And I remember telling him how much fun I was having. I would walk on campus and I don't know, maybe I was a weirdo, but I'd walk on campus and I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this right now. I think too, just like having always done school at home, regardless of where I was, just going anywhere by myself to like kind of figure out my own life was exciting because it was all new.
Yep.
And so I just loved it. And Ryan was kind of like, okay, well, I'm glad you like this so much. I'm like, this is the best season of my life. And it was because I met Ryan. So
yeah.
So did that. We got married a year and a half after we met. And then we had our first kid. We got pregnant 4 months after we got married, which was not the plan.
No, it never is.
No,
it just never is. It's
then
like when
the
you get
rest
the news,
is
you're
history.
like, wow, it really does work that way.
Well, I knew I wanted to have a family. So once we got pregnant with our first, I'm like, well, here we go. You know,
We're doing the family thing.
I know I want to give him a sibling. So we're doing it. And so here I am, 10 years later, 4 kids later.
Yep.
And I'd say we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really for you to have kind of graduated from homeschooling and gone to university and then gotten married and really, I mean, you're doing the thing that everybody talks about doing.
Yeah.
And it was as much of a relief for me as it was for you, because I remember thinking and watching this beautiful 18-year-old daughter of mine, and I'm pregnant with Sailor, with our youngest. So when you graduated, I'm just getting ready to start all over again.
Wow.
I know, it was a big wow. And I remember just thinking, as we give you your diploma, gosh, I hope this works.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't work, that's going to be a lot of therapy bills I'm going to be paying for.
All my eggs are in this basket. It better work.
It better work. So it's kind of cool to watch you, because now 5 of you guys are graduated.
Yeah.
And a couple of them are at Portland Bible College and just doing great. And it's fun for me to watch. Skylar is producing this podcast. I mean, you guys can't see him, but he's sitting behind the camera over there. So Skylar's producing the podcast. And one thing I've noticed about all of you really is that you really are kind of entrepreneurs. Like, you have an idea and you want to pursue it.
Where can we get that from, I wonder?
I just have no idea. I don't even know what you're talking about right now.
Well, and we do get, Ryan and I get to work with Summer and Spencer. They're interning at our church, and that's like so fun. I often am just like, wow, this is so cool.
Yeah.
That even after we're done homeschooling, and there's a big age gap there between me and them. Summer, I think I'm 12 years older than her. And just to like be becoming closer friends with them and doing life with them and everything, that's been a huge blessing.
Yeah, it's fun. And now you've got Sierra married, and she's just down the street, and Skylar's
Amazing,
married just down the street. All of you guys moved to Camas. Everybody lives within like 2 minutes of each other.
My dream.
You're living the dream. Well, I want to ask you, I'm just going to go down a list of questions that I get asked all the time that I think, this would be a really good one to pitch to you. But first, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I'm going to jump right into it. We'll be right back. All right. So, Savannah, the first question that people always ask still, shockingly, is what about socialization? So a mom wrote into me just a few weeks ago and said, hey, I'm really done with the school system. They're teaching my kids the Zer pronouns, which is so completely insane. And she said, I really want to pull out my kids, all 3 of them, but I'm worried about socialization. And, I have so much to say about that, but what do you say?
Honestly, the socialization is one of the top reasons why I homeschool my kids.
Yes.
I've seen what it's like in public school, actually personally, because I wasn't always homeschooled. I was in public school up until 2nd grade.
Yep.
And I remember what it was like being bullied and all that stuff. And that was,
It's no fun.
25 years ago.
Yep.
And now it's even worse. My mother-in-law is a teacher, and she will attest that over the last 30 years in the public school system, it's not just the way that they run things or things they're teaching, it's the actual kids that are not being parented correctly at home. And the teachers' hands are tied. They can't discipline them. They can't really have consequences for things. And so you end up with all these kids, like 30 in a classroom. I mean, how do you manage that as one teacher? That's insane.
Yeah.
And then it's going to end up happening. Your kids are going to, I don't know. I don't want any of that for my kids. So we choose to homeschool, and that's one of the big reasons I'm able to have a lot more, I don't want to use the word control, but in a way, that's what I mean.
What's your job?
Yeah, over who they're hanging out with, how long they're spending with each of them. And it's been really valuable. And so I'd say I run away from the public school because of the socialization aspect of it. And in homeschooling, not only do I get to avoid that, but there's so many great resources for kids these days. My kids have so many friends. When I throw birthday parties, it is very expensive. There's too many.
Yeah, because you're getting ready to do it again.
I know.
I know. Wesley's going to have a birthday here pretty quick.
Yeah, and they have so many good friends. And the neat thing is that all their friends, I'm friends with their moms. We're doing life together.
The families.
Yeah. And we have the same values, and we're doing the same thing at home. And so I've never seen the socialization as a problem as I'm approaching homeschooling with my kids. However, I will say that when I was a teenager, I do remember feeling frustrated about that when we had moved from Mount Vernon down to Vancouver. So that's 4 hours.
When you were 12. So this was a very big transition time in your life.
Yeah, I left all my friends. We moved down, and we were going to church, and I was in a youth group there, but I felt like I just couldn't connect to the kids in youth group. They were all public schooled or private schooled, and they thought I was a total weirdo for being homeschooled, and I probably was kind of weird. I mean, I was 12. I don't know many 12-year-olds that aren't awkward.
Find me a 12-year-old that's not awkward, right?
I know, exactly. So I do remember feeling very lonely, and that was really, I think, the only time.
And we'd had Friday school up in Mount Vernon.
Yeah, so we were connected to families who homeschooled, but now we didn't have that. And that was, I think, the only time when I actually thought, I don't want to do this. I want to go to school. And it was not because I didn't think I was getting a good education. I was just lonely.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that you guys, because I thought it was just as soon as I decide I get to go to school, they're going to say yes, because they always promised me if I didn't want to do this, then I would not have to.
That was one of my biggest fails as a mom, I think, when you came to us and you're like junior high age, you're like, so Mom, when I turn 13 and I have the world by the tail, if I decide I want to go back to school, would it be all right if I just, hop on a bus and go to school? And I remember thinking, no, I don't want you doing that. But I thought, oh, hey, I've got a year. She's got a year to think about it, or whatever, 2 years.
She would never want to leave me.
She would never want to leave me. I mean, she's surely going to want to just stay home. So when you came to me and were like, so here I am, Mom, I've arrived, and I would like to go to public school, I was like, oh, dear. So I kicked the can down the road.
I feel like I remember your deer in the headlights look.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember just thinking to myself, this motherhood experiment thing is not going well today. It's not going well. And you were really upset because at that point, you'd kind of put your hopes in, Mom and Dad said that I could go. And we had to go back. Your dad and I had to go back.
On your word.
Right. And then we had to apologize.
Yeah.
We had to say, hey, you know what? We made a mistake. We thought that this would turn out differently than it actually is.
You'd make a different choice.
You'd make a different choice.
Trusted me, 13-year-old.
Well, and I think parents, ultimately that was our choice to make for you. At 13 years old, you were not capable. You had an opinion, and we wanted to certainly hear it and wanted to hear you. But I think parents need to feel like they are in the driver's seat because they're the ones who are going to be answering for the well-being of their children. And I remember just telling you, your dad and I, Savannah, what is it? What is it? Why do you want to go to school? And of course, you just said what it was. It wasn't academics. You weren't worried that you weren't going to get into college. It was friendship.
I felt left out, really. I mean, at youth group, my friends mostly talked about the stuff going on at school, and it was all stuff I wasn't a part of. So I felt like I couldn't really be in their group, unless I was in school with them. And so I just thought, well, naturally, that means I should be going to school. And I that is where I think you got it right, though. You didn't. I've seen parents listen to their kids on this, and they just feel so guilty because their kid is not enjoying being home. So they choose to listen to them and send them back to school. But instead of doing what's best for their kid, they're just kind of caving into that guilt that they're feeling.
Yeah, it's real, too. The mother guilt.
I feel mother guilt over things all the time. And Ryan will be like, Savannah, snap out of it. Like,
right.
You're the mom, not him.
Thank goodness for the men in our lives, right? Yeah.
I know. But what I appreciated and what I tell to moms that are struggling with this, because we do hear it at the Resource Center all the time, less and less now that they get more involved here
Yeah,
at
once
the
they realize
center.
there's life outside. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that transition from the public school system into homeschooling.
It can be bumpy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a totally different
It's
paradigm.
an adjustment. Yeah. But I think what you did right and what I tell them is listen to your kid.
Mhm.
Why is it that they want to go back to public school? Figure out what the reason is and then try to find a solution for them at home.
Mhm.
And that was what I appreciated about how you guys handled that with me, was that you really listened to me and you found a solution without sending me to school.
Mhm.
And honestly, and the solution was starting Friday school down here
Yep.
at Homeschool Co-op.
Yep.
And once we did that and I had my friends, I had no desire to go to public school.
Right.
I didn't really want to be in public school. I just
Right.
wanted friends, you
Right.
know? And so it was kind of a relief. Like, now I have my friends and I'm
Yeah.
still homeschooling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just think that so much, if parents would just listen and then come up with creative ways to facilitate whatever it is that they feel like they're lacking,
Mhm.
it can make all the difference. And even though you said no to me, I still felt heard and there was a solution.
Mhm.
And it was a great solution.
Mhm.
It was awesome. So I do feel as well, back then there were not as many options for co-ops and ways to get involved with other homeschool families. Now I don't feel like there's a town in the U.S. that doesn't have some kind of co-op
Oh,
group.
it's true. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
there's so many ways to get involved. And 9 times out of 10 with kids, it's just the friend aspect of it,
Yeah.
of why they want to go to school.
Yeah,
Most of them
yeah.
aren't concerned about their
Yeah,
education.
they're not at home going, you're not a good biology teacher. I don't,
yeah, I think my grades would improve.
Yeah, I think my grades would improve under someone else's tutelage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not what it is. But you really did thrive. I mean, you guys put together we had, homeschool dances that we did. We did all kinds of fun things. I mean, our house was just busy, busy, busy all the time. And as I watched you kind of maneuvering as our first, because it all just is a big grand experiment, right? Motherhood is an experiment. We're trying to figure out our kids. We're trying to figure out, what's going to work for our family. And watching you navigate your way through that really gave me confidence to keep going. I thought, okay, she's doing pretty good. And here we've got all these other younger ones coming up behind you. And just to realize, I think moms need to know it's okay for you to, and actually it's the right thing, to make the right decision for your child. And that you trust that the fruit of that will follow later. And you guys have just been, it really was a delight for me to watch you just doing all the things. We have so many wonderful memories. And I've told people here at the show many times of all of the fails that I had, just the epic failures, and yelling at you guys because you were too loud and the baby was trying to sleep. Remember, and I just lost my mind on everybody. And
That's what's so funny. I don't remember a lot of those things. And I yell at my kids, but then it encourages me because I'm like, okay, mom says that she yelled at us all the time, which I certainly do remember you yelling, but I don't think of you as a yelling mom, know?
Right.
I'm just like, I hope my kids don't remember me yelling.
Well, it's challenging. And so you take the role of a mother, which really is challenging, and then you add the role of teacher to it, in terms of school. But I think once you learn that sort of paradigm and how it can work, it's really a game changer. And I feel like homeschooling gives you what no other educational option does, and that's time. It's a gift of time with your kids. Noah and Wesley and Junie and Thatcher better than anybody else.
Oh, yeah.
And you have the opportunity to check their hearts to figure, here's a good question for you. Have you ever stopped a homeschool lesson and had to correct your children?
No. Why would we have to do that?
I know what you're talking about.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And it gives you time. I mean, if that character flaw or whatever it is was happening at the school, you wouldn't hear about it until it was rearing its ugly head in your house.
Right, so it gets much bigger.
Right.
We catch it
Yeah.
right at the moment.
Yeah.
Depending on how tired I am.
Right.
Sometimes I can always tell when I've been letting things slide too much because all of a sudden I'll just find myself that I've been yelling all day.
Yeah.
And no one's listening to me, no one's obeying. And I'm like, what is wrong? And then I realize, for the past week or more, I've been just distracted or just letting them off the hook way too much.
Right.
And yeah, it really does make a difference to be able to be on top of it with them.
Yeah, it really does. It's the gift of time, which I think is so important. I have so many more questions. Before we wrap up today, I want to sort of take this socialization thing to the end because I read an article in a very popular magazine just recently about a mom who pulled her kids out of school during the pandemic, which a lot of people have done.
Mm-hmm.
Here at the Homeschool Resource Center, we're seeing quite a matriculation rate. People are staying, which is
are.
really exciting.
And they weren't planning to.
No. So that's really exciting. But here this mom says, she got to the end of her homeschool year and she decided, her daughter said she was tired of living in a bubble and she wanted to go back to school. And I was like, what universe? Like, I'm trying to imagine, like, if you feel like you don't have friends and you're not socialized and you're living in some sort of a bubble, I don't think that's the fault of homeschooling. I think that's a parent who hasn't found a community yet, because the community is out there. What do you say when people say to you, hey, homeschoolers are just sheltered and they're just in a bubble? And
it is what you make it. I mean, you really can't pin a homeschool family down into a stereotype, especially these days. It's so widespread. There are so many homeschoolers. And so homeschooling is what you make it. You decide what your homeschool journey is like. It doesn't have, you could be in a bubble if you wanted. You could never leave your house and just stay there and shelter your kids from everything. Or you could be
go
normal.
to Walmart and expose them to everything.
Yeah. Or you could be normal and get involved in things, find friends for your kids, put them in some classes. I don't think that my kids have ever thought of it that way. They're younger. My oldest is 9. But they love being homeschooled. And the other day, Ryan made a joke about how we put an offer on a house today.
So exciting.
And it's our first house and it's terrifying. But it's right behind a brand new school. And Ryan was joking with me and he was like, well, I guess if you're having a bad day, you could always just send them over to the school. And my oldest was like, what? You would not do that, Mom. You would not send us to school. I was like, no, I'm not going to send you to school. They love it. And it totally fits for our family. They have plenty of friends and community. And if it's a bubble I want to be in. So
well, we're all kind of, there are bubbles everywhere. I mean, and like your dad was saying earlier, we were talking about, he's like, well, pick your bubble. Do you want to be in the public school bubble where they're going to teach you your pronouns and teach you that there is no God and teach you that, left is right and right is left? Or do you want to be in a homeschool bubble where you are educating your children in truth? I mean, that is the primary role of a parent. Yeah, is to give your kids truth. And again, you've got the time to do that because you guys are homeschooling, which I just think
it's such a blessing. I really love it. And I love the time I get with the kids. I mean, it is overwhelming. And recently I've told people I describe the stage of parenting I'm in as overstimulating.
Yeah.
I just feel like I'm overstimulated all the time. And then I just have to figure out how to deal with it.
Your youngest is 5 months?
5 months. So I have 2 older ones that are 5 or 9 and almost 7, and then 2 younger ones that are 2 and a baby. And so it's just the dynamic of these 2 sets that have such different needs. And you got the boys who are just
energy.
So much energy all the time. We could do a whole podcast on raising boys. It's really insane. But yeah, it just between that, I feel like all day long I'm like, hey, okay, we're doing this, we're fine. Just overstimulated. And it's not a bad thing. A lot of it is good stimulation. It's good things, but it's just a lot. So,
do you feel like as you're homeschooling your own kids, that has helped you that you were homeschooled yourself in terms of the confidence that you bring to the table?
Yeah, I'm really thankful that I'm going into this as a second-generation homeschooler because I think the biggest thing is that I've seen that I can relax. I feel like a lot of the new homeschool moms that don't have exposure to homeschooling, that's their biggest thing is that they're so nervous that they're going to do something wrong, that they're not going to teach all the things correctly, or they're not going to get every subject in a year that they need. And having been homeschooled and watched the success of it with me and my friends and my siblings, I feel like I'm able to have a much more laid-back approach and not let it stress me out too much. I mean, we're still getting stuff done. I know I have to do the thing, and we're doing it, but I'm not, like, overly stressed about every little thing. Or if my child is, like Noah, he does not, the 9-year-old, he hates writing. If I make him write a sentence that has 5 words.
That was Skylar. He was the same way.
He's like, 5 words? Why are you doing this to me? I'm like, oh my gosh, kid, it's 5 words. You can handle this. But I'm not stressing out that my 3rd grader doesn't want to write more than 5 words because I know he's going to write.
Right.
We're working on it. Yeah, exactly. And so I think that has given me a lot of confidence. And I've noticed that my friends who were homeschooled, they also just kind of have this laid back approach where we just know how it works, So, and it is fun to be able to pass this on to my kids and let them have the blessing that I had growing up. It was such a positive thing for me. And now it being a positive thing for them, it just makes me happy that I can keep doing that. And it's been good.
It's such a gift, and it's encouraging for me just to watch you walking in the truth and passing that on, that legacy of faithfulness to your children. And I wonder sometimes what our lives would have looked like if we'd have gone a different way, because I never planned on homeschooling you guys.
Yeah.
That was like the farthest thing from my mind. I mean, I'm the mom who was just like, oh, no, no, no. Like, why would we do that? You know, your dad went to a public school and I went to a private school. And I just thought that's what you do. You know, you send your kids away. But I just think all these moms now that are coming to me, and dads too, where they feel ripped off. They're like, I just lost, 15 years with my kid when they were gone 8-9 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then you get them at the end of the day when they're tired and crabby and they just want to eat and go to bed. And you're really getting the best years of your children's growing up. You're experiencing that instead of somebody else.
I can't imagine missing out on that. I mean, even though I'm with them all day, every day, they're growing up so fast.
They are.
I can't believe it.
I know.
I can't imagine if I wasn't with them like I am now. I feel like I would miss out on so much of their life. Like, it'd be so sad. I'm really thankful for it. And I have to remind myself of that on the hard days.
Yeah, right.
The days where I'm extra twitchy. Because it really is a blessing, and I see it in them. And it's such great, precious time that we have together. It's really, really a blessing.
It really is. Man, it's such a joy to talk to you. I've got a whole list of things I want to ask you, and I'd love it if you can come back. We're going to do this again, and we'll air part 2 tomorrow. Does that sound good? You up for it?
Sounds great, yeah.
All right, we're going to do that. Hey, you guys, thank you so much for listening. I hope you're enjoying this. If you want to find out about Firmly Planted Family and the Homeschool Resource Center, you can go to fphrc.org. You can see what we're doing. Savannah is actually in charge of the Seedlings program at the Homeschool Resource Center, and she's also the lead writer for Kids Strong. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
So you took a little bit of a break, couple months for Thatcher.
Yeah.
But she's getting ready to come back on the writing staff at Mom Strong International. So Savannah writes those studies that go along with the main study at Mom Strong International. If you want more information on that, it's momstronginternational.com. Thank you guys for listening and for visiting our sponsors as they're helping us keep on the air. We appreciate you. Have a great day, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow at the intersection of faith and culture.